Stray Kids dropped a teaser for their new comeback, and a lot of people didn't understand it at all. But honestly, I have to admit, it did a really good job at grabbing attention. Even I got curious enough to break it down, even though I don't really keep up with the group anymore. But there are actually a lot of interesting meanings here, at least to me, so let's watch. It all starts with a nighttime scene in a parking lot. There's a line of people waiting by a truck, not too many of them. And since this is happening at night, whatever they're waiting for is either not widely known or, judging by the whole setup, not exactly legal. Pay attention to the truck itself. Besides the cage-like design on it, there's also this tiny detail right here. At first, I thought it was a door handle, but no. In the next shot, we see that it's actually just a coffee cup. Well, not just a coffee cup. It's a hint. And of course, we also see Seungmin is definitely not sitting there for no reason. He has a whole bunch of records, but he gives the main character the orange one specifically. The next shot shows us that the parking lot isn't actually that empty, because there's also a container with the words ticket box on it. I still couldn't figure out the second inscription, but I'm pretty sure it does not say Stray Kids. The doors close, the main character ends up inside this cage, and we see that same orange record and orange headphones. About the color orange, as far as I know, it hasn't really been used as the main color of a comeback before. And it's actually a pretty interesting choice, because when I think of orange, I personally have only one association. Okay, maybe two, but if we go back to the iPhone, it definitely set a certain trend for this color. Obviously, we've had brands like Hermès or Louis Vuitton associated with orange before, but lately the association has been something like this. And in my opinion, there could be a few reasons for that, because colors, just like fonts, are never chosen randomly. First, since the whole teaser is built around sameness, orange creates a strong contrast, so most likely, the album will have something unusual in it, maybe some new genres, as a counterpoint to the fact that music nowadays has become very samey, not even mentioning ARI tracks. Second, it could also be irony, like a comment on how people mindlessly follow trends and make or listen to something just because it's popular. Now back to the teaser. The main character puts on the headphones, the music basically hits him, and he ends up in a coffee shop. The coffee shop is, of course, called this and that. And basically, those are the only two words we're going to see inside this universe. The cups, the menu, and even the dialogue. Everything is made up of only these two words. It starts with Christopher, and his message here is pretty simple. He makes coffee for the main character while saying this, even though the cup itself is turned toward us with the word that on it. Our guy doesn't understand anything, so he asks again. Then the original Christopher points behind him and says, "That?" And here we get the scene that a lot of people were laughing at in the comments. But the message here is super simple. This is a very obvious emphasis on ARI content, because all these that's literally look like the uncanny valley. The main character turns around, and notice, by the way, that he's wearing the same clothes as in the very first scene, and says this in this broken, shaky voice. And the original Christopher confidently answers, "That," and makes him a different coffee. And this transmuted coffee is a reference to the crowd standing behind him. In the original, we had an iced Americano. Then we copied it, and the result was something completely different, even though technically it's still coffee. So the first coffee was made by him, but this one came from transformation, which is why it turned into this weird, unclear thing. And since the crowd is standing in line, that means they're all fine with it. Only the main character, as the chosen one, sees that something is wrong here. By the way, the original Christopher sees that this is an imposter, and judging by his facial expression, he doesn't understand what the main character is so unhappy about. The main character panics and runs away. He bumps into someone, falls, and we see Minho. His vocabulary is also limited to just 2 words. When he realizes that the main character doesn't understand him, he just takes a picture of him. He doesn't help him up. He doesn't explain anything. He just takes a photo. The scene is short, but it's actually pretty meaningful, because idols can only dream of having a private life without camera flashes in their faces. Nobody cares about your problems, or about your desire to simply go outside without crowds of crazy people and paparazzi chasing you. And at the very beginning, Minho picks up a photo from the floor, a photo that he himself takes a second later. I really like this shot with the frame, because we are literally being forced into a frame that we're supposed to fit into. Then we see Han Ji-sung, who is hosting an auction. I'll say this now, the people in this location are going to be the same everywhere, because this is literally one location. But I'll come back to that later. The main character is being evaluated at the auction like an object, and the original Han Ji-sung hits the gavel. Sold. The theme of endless judgment and people examining literally every millimeter of an idol's life is not exactly new either. So this is a direct allegory for being trapped inside a box. I don't think this applies only to Ji-sung, just like I don't think the paparazzi theme applies only to Minho. I'd say all the topics raised in this teaser apply to the whole group, and maybe even to the industry as a whole. Next, we move to Changbin's kitchen. The cooking theme is obviously a direct allegory for making music. Even the plates here match the idea, but the way he examines what is made so carefully, then listens to it, and only when he's fully satisfied does he nod confidently. I think that's a reference to the fact that their music is created with the same level of perfectionism and attention to detail. Plus, it's also a message that they make it themselves. Some people like it, some people don't. That's a matter of taste, just like with food. Then Changbin gives instructions, or basically yells, at the kitchen staff, notices our imposter, and the main character comes back to himself in the same cafe again. I already mentioned this, but the location here is essentially always the same. We're just seeing different sides of it. It feels like we're trapped here. Then we move to Jeonjin. By the way, I have a theory that he might be the one the main character bumped into when he was running out of the coffee shop, because the jacket looks the same. Jeonjin holds out his hand, covered in a bunch of diamonds. The main character doesn't understand anything and refuses to take it. Around them are the same bots we've already seen. They don't really care what's happening. They only turn around when the main character refuses Jeonjin's offer to join all of this. The main character gets scared, and Jeonjin covers him with a tablecloth. You could say this is also about privacy, but I'd add that it's more about not having the ability to express your opinion without being condemned. Because God forbid you do or say the wrong thing, they'll immediately cover you up too. Even though from the outside, it all looks very fancy. They're sitting in an expensive restaurant, they're well dressed, and they're genuinely surprised that someone doesn't want to fit into this world. Then we have Hyun Jin. From the color of the floor, you can tell he's still in the same location too, even though the atmosphere is definitely more relaxed. Dim lights, dancing. The original Hyun Jin is dancing with I honestly don't even know. Okay, let's talk about this. All the previous female versions of the members really did look like women. But here, we have a woman's body and literally just Hyun Jin's head on it. And it really stands out. I don't know if this was done on purpose or if something simply went wrong. I even have a theory that if it looked more like an actual woman, some of the more crazy fans would have had a meltdown, even though it would still be Hyun Jin. Anyway, he finishes dancing, and the crowd starts clapping. The light gets brighter, the sounds get louder. He feels this huge pressure, and based on the effects, it almost looks like a panic attack. Or maybe it's just a reference to the idea that when people start putting too much pressure on you, even the thing you love starts suffocating you. You just want to close yourself off and hide. And then, in the next shot, our main character realizes that none of this was real. By contrast, the crowd dancing in the room is totally fine with everything. And as soon as he understands what's happening, all the original characters smile at him. Well, except Changbin, as if they're acknowledging his identity. And all these RE NPCs disappear. It means while you can still separate reality from fantasy and treat people like people, they'll treat you the same way in return. This is also where they connect all the characters back to Sungmin, because they show him too. Obviously, we already know his part of the group, but he wasn't inside this fantasy. However, as soon as our main character relaxes and puts the headphones back on, thinking it's all over, we meet the final boss. When I watched the teaser for the first time, I had this really stupid joke in my head that Felix simply didn't have time to film the teaser because of all his side jobs. And honestly, it's not surprising that Felix is shown last, and in such an insane concentration. I mean, we have cookies with his face on them, one of which is our main character, and all the NPCs around him look exactly the same. Even their hair is styled the same way. The only one with a different hairstyle is the original Felix. Why did I say it's not surprising that he's last? Because Felix, with his crazy level of popularity, perfectly symbolizes this obsession. Not just obsession with him specifically, but obsession with idols in general. I mean, literally, people are so obsessed and crave this kind of merging so much that in the end, that merging actually happens when Felix eats our main character. It's also interesting that, besides Sungmin, Felix is the only one shown outside. So he's the only one who left that location. And the location there was still the same one. Speaking of Sungmin, he acts as the guide into this whole universe. He gives the main character the record and sends him into the van. And the van, or basically, this cage, is a kind of way to escape reality into your fantasies. And that is exactly what people are willing to stand in line for. So the conclusion is simple. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Or, to put it more simply, live your own life, not someone else's. Having idols is fine, especially if they can be a source of inspiration. But obsession is not a healthy thing. I hope I managed to get the point across. Again, this is just my interpretation, and I'm not claiming that it's 100% correct. Thanks for watching.